Hi, this is Dr. Gayle MacBride, and I just wanted to thank you for getting all the way to the end of season 2. I hope you've enjoyed this season with all of our guests. We are busy working on season 3, so I want you to watch out for it to drop in early 2026. In the meantime, enjoy a mix of rerun episodes that have been curated for you by our intrepid host, Michael MacBride. These rerun episodes are a mix of the most listened to, the least listened to, and all of our guests. We're going to give them a repeat performance as well. So thank you for following along with us on this journey. Don't forget to like, comment, and share. This helps us get more listeners. And please, even though we are on a break, we are watching our mailbag. So thanks for listening and look forward to season 3 in 2026.
Well, hey there. You've stumbled upon the intersection of internet quandaries and psychological insight. Welcome to Veritas Views on AITA, where the quirks of the internet meet the expertise of Veritas Psychology Partners.
Guys, the results are in. Our peers have spoken. The American Psychological Association Council of Representatives position officially goes to Shannon Goecke-Watson. I would like to take this moment to officially concede with the same enthusiasm that I brought to my entire campaign against her, which was none. She ran a great race. I, on the other hand, barely could bother to be showing up. And honestly, I am surprised as anyone that I was even included on the ballot. I'm honored to have Shannon Goecke-Watson joining us today with my business partner, Dan Kessler. Dan, are there enough wonderful things that we can say about Shannon and our excitement about her being with us in this conversation?
I don't think so.
She's wonderful.
It would be, it would be challenging to say, to like, be able to get enough nice things to say to really match the niceness. And it's cool because those of you who are on TV or are YouTube, the YouTubes might see that it looks like Shannon might be blushing.
Right? I did sort of.
I'm not actually sure. Maybe it's just the lighting.
I've never blushed in my life, so that would be a feat.
That would be cool. It just, the lighting. All right. So I've made my first error already. I just want to note that we're less than 2 minutes on a podcast. Social error number 1, me. Shannon, really glad to have you here. Thank you so much for joining us on our little podcast.
I'm so grateful to be with you all today. I am so looking forward to this.
All right. So we should probably tell our listeners what this is, what they've stumbled into. Michael, could you help us out?
Sure. Well, welcome everyone. And for, the newbies out there or even regular listeners that are like, wait, that's not how it usually starts. This is essentially a podcast where I've gone out and I found a scenario online that somebody has shared. And they've asked the internet, who's the asshole here? And that's what we're going to hope to determine. Where there's any kind of identifiable information, I've tried to de-identify it a bit to be a little more discreet. And then also, if you're new, stick around through the credits. There's always some kind of bonus conversation. And we'll see what that is today. But I haven't shared any information about what I'm going to throw at them. All 3 of them are going into this blind, and so we'll just roll with it. The prompt today is, am I the asshole for asking my wife to do her therapy homework during the time I'm working and our child is at school?
Can you read it one more time?
Yeah. Am I the asshole for asking my wife to do her therapy homework during the time I am working and our child is at school?
Now, I assume there's more.
There's got to be more.
Is that the headline? Okay.
Yeah,
so
that's
far
just
I'm
the
not.
headline. I'll give you more.
Right.
Sometimes you can jump in.
All right.
So I don't know.
Well, we often jump in and judge a book by its cover because it's fun to do that. So
Absolutely. And I definitely have a knee-jerk reaction, but I really think details might be helpful here.
You have a knee-jerk reaction here.
I know.
So again, coming from my background of domestic violence work, because I'm like, are we getting into power and control here?
Right.
All right. So the rest of it is the couple is late 30s and the poster is male. And he says, I'm 30-something old guy and my wife, slightly older, is currently on short-term disability for mental health reasons, not physical recovery. I've been in a similar position myself, taking 4 months off work and logging over 400 hours of therapy a couple of years ago. So I really do get how hard this is for her. I've tried to be supportive. I filed her claim for her, set up appointments when she needed help, and we were both doing individual and couples therapy. But communication has been tough, especially since we've had our child. I've done a lot of work on myself, changed careers, adjusted my lifestyle, and I'm trying to show up better, but I feel like she keeps me at a distance, especially when it comes to how her recovery is going. She's been in therapy for months and still struggles to follow through, even for getting homework from sessions, which I'll admit frustrates me. Now a month into her leave, she wants 30 to 60 minutes alone every evening after our kid gets home and on the weekends, specifically to focus on her recovery. I asked genuinely, not confrontationally, if she could do that while our child is at school and I'm at work, so it wouldn't cut into our family time when we're all together. That's when she got really upset, and I never supported her, and things escalated. I felt the conversation feeling pretty stuck, or I left the conversation feeling stuck. I do want her to have time for herself, but I also want to find a solution that works for our family. So I'm wondering, am I the asshole for even trying to talk to her about adjusting that schedule for when she does her homework?
You've left 3 clinicians sort of speechless.
Absolutely.
Well, the problem
It's
is,
hard.
as we see so often, though, we're getting this person's perspective. And I could totally see this being the way he's describing it. And I could totally see this being completely and entirely different. Like he yada 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 over and it escalated from there. Like, what was his contribution in that escalation? Because he said, please do it at this time. And she objected and it escalated. Like, that distancing of responsibility from, she objected, like he left out his part there. What happened there, that quote, again, that third personing of it escalated. Like, so I am, the reason for my pause, I don't know about my colleagues, the reason for my pause is there's a lot of stuff that's not in here.
Yes.
I totally agree. Shannon, what are your thoughts?
So I had a number of questions that I would want to be asking.
Yeah.
One question that comes to mind is, what is she doing during the day?
Yes.
So what is happening during the day that she's not doing the therapy homework? Is she doing physical therapy? Is she doing, what is she doing during the day, right? What is precluding her from being able to do X, Y, Z during that period of time, right?
Yeah.
And so I suspect she's doing legit things that's happening during that time, right?
Right.
Second, Dan, I think you're absolutely right. It escalated. What's it? Right? I don't know what it is, and that's concerning for me.
So in the conversation, would you like to see someone taking more personal responsibility? I escalated, she escalated, we both escalated, taking
what does
more.
Escalation mean?
Okay.
What does
So
escalation
defining
mean?
it.
Yeah.
We started yelling. She stormed out of the room. I stormed out of the room. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I hear this and I'm just like, there's just holes. Like, because if he says to her, it would be really great if you did this in the evening, and she says, that doesn't work for me because blah, 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 whatever. And he goes, like, what, that sounds like what it might start with. He's left out what happens next. And which should be like some version of, okay, or, well, are there ways that we can help to, whatever, but if it was a calm, reasonable, rational response, I don't hear, quote, it escalating. And I do, the other thing that, and I'm going to take this on another path though, he talks about how I've been through this and I did this and I did this and kind of focused on all of that. Underlying that for me was this assumption that I know what she's going through, therefore I am able to make a good recommendation for her. And he started out with that base. His experience and her experience, like that assumption is an unreasonable assumption.
Can I add one?
I think.
Let me add one thing really quick. So you guys asked an important question, and sometimes we get feedback from the poster, which is great. A lot of times we don't. In this case, the poster did come back and specify that she is a stay-at-home mother, but he works from home. And so part of the conflict is she doesn't feel like she really has the private dedicated time during the day that he's trying to say, like, this is really when you should do your therapy. So I don't know if that changes your perspective, but I wanted to offer that for you. So
Also thinking here we're in the summer months. Kids are at home. Kids aren't at school, right? Now we're in summer. Kids are home all the time.
Yeah, I think in the post, so they did specifically say while our son is in school. So we have to assume that the child is away from the house, but we don't know how many hours. I mean, to your point, Shannon, what does school mean? Does it mean a couple of hours? You know, some preschools only run a couple of hours. Parents no sooner drop them off as they turn around and go pick them up. So it isn't clear what the circumstances are. I also find it really a difficult position when someone has been through, let's say, therapy and time away from paid employment to do this kind of recovery work, to then turn to somebody else and say, well, this is how I manage my day, this is what my recovery looked like, therefore I know the secret, to unlocking the structure of this. That doesn't work for everyone. Maybe she is someone who's a bit more of a night owl, and maybe, doing that kind of heavy brain lift work at 10 a.m. really isn't this lady's bag. Who knows? I mean, there's lots of reasons why imposing your structure on somebody else doesn't work. And again, the poster is saying he offered it sort of as a gentle suggestion as opposed to it. And even if he did, sometimes it comes off feeling kind of overly overbearing and demanding because this person is in a really delicate spot. I mean, they've taken time away from work to do mental health recovery. So we don't have someone who is, feeling like they are full with resilience at this point in time. So it may just have felt like a really judgy kind of way to make comments about how they are navigating this stage of recovery. And it sounds like she's only maybe a month into something that was pretty significant, where she's taken time away from work. So, she is probably in a really tough spot. The other thing I sat here and wondered is, what does therapy homework look like? Therapy homework, we know, is the work we ask our folks to do outside of the session. So, Shannon, you said earlier, maybe she's doing physical therapy. Who knows? Maybe she's in day programming. She might be in a PHP, a partial hospitalization, or an IOP, an intensive outpatient program, in which case those days are very full treatment days, and kind of start to look like school or work. It becomes the job. And then any work you're doing outside of that has to be figured into and on top of the other life things that still have to happen, raising this child, meals, home care, things like that. So I'm just concerned about the assumption that the previous structure for the husband is going to work for the wife. And even if we take the power and control piece of it out and just isolate this part of the issue, I think he's a bit in the wrong.
Well, we also have to look at too, sometimes therapy homework can be something that could take 2 minutes per
Sure.
day. I
Yeah.
mean, it could be as quick as practicing a skill, right? Sometimes I will assign somebody, practice XYZ breathing technique, couple of
Hmm.
minutes per day, right? Or
Absolutely.
it could be as intensive as practice or do something, up to 30 minutes per day.
Hmm.
And so that's something too that can take a significant amount more time. Like thinking about all of us, all three of us that are on here today are trained in something called cognitive processing therapy. Dan, I'm assuming you are as well, right? Oh, you're
I am
not. Okay.
not. I am
Okay.
not training
He could
cognitive
do it.
processing.
He
Right
really
here, I'm
could.
making assumptions. See, jumping in. Got to call
Yep.
myself out as the asshole now for making assumptions. I know Gail is. Gail and I are both trained in CPT. And when you're in the early parts of CPT, the worksheets, the ABC worksheet takes a
Yeah.
couple of minutes. But when you're in the later stages of it, the challenging beliefs worksheet can take significant amounts more time.
That's what I was thinking. Like, if you get something like
Yeah.
that and then you ask someone to sit down in the morning, they'll say, well, I don't necessarily have enough grist for that mill. Like, I need to do that work, but I'm looking for these kinds of um, themes that come up. So in CPT, we deal a lot with safety, trust, power and control, esteem, and intimacy. And so sometimes people are looking at their interactions throughout the day to go, oh, this was a safety related belief that came up for me, but they kind of needed the day to unfold to even find that, to like write on it, right? And if you do it first thing in the morning, you're then really casting your mind back maybe to the night before, the day before, and it maybe doesn't work as well.
But even
Well,
even if oh
yeah, go
sorry,
ahead,
Shannon.
Dan. Go ahead.
Even if we take away the possibility that she's in PHP, we take away the kids from the home,
Hmm.
take away the need to do the work later in the day after processing. Let's just say for a moment that this is just the time when she works the best.
Yeah.
Her life is in a place where she is putting things on hold. She's left work. She's not in a good place because she's needed this. If she has found a way, and he said she struggled to complete her homework, she struggled to do the work of therapy. If she has found a workaround, this is what works best for me. Let's take therapy out of it. Let's say that she wanted to exercise every day, and she has found that I can exercise at 7 p.m. and that works for me. I just can't seem to do it at any other time of the day, but this works for me. Could I please have that time? Let's say she, whatever it is, she just wants a half an hour to read or to quiet her mind or whatever. He can say, could this be done at an earlier time of the day? She says, no, this is what works for me. This is this opportunity. Like, you're going through a lot right now. Not that, like, she doesn't need a reason for that time to work. If that time works,
it strikes me
he's
as
framing himself as this supportive guy and this terrific husband who's there for his spouse. If he wants to be that person, that's a great opportunity to be that person. Yes, this is what works for you. Great. Said, can we do like the 7:45, 8? Like, what time works best for you? Like, I got, so I can. You need a quiet place. Like, should I take the kids out of the house? Yeah. Like, what would make this work for you? That's
the TLDR, Dan. Do what works for you in the situation that you're in, and not the situation that you wish you were in.
Yeah.
And I have clients where we do this, where they'll exchange. So like, I'll take this hour with the kids and you get this hour with the kids, right?
Yeah.
So that here's my hour of self-care, my hour of therapy homework, or my hour with kids. And then you go get your hour. So that both get time with the kids one-on-one, which is important for the parents to have with the kids, so that the kids get time one-on-one with the parent, right? And that's important for the bonding time, and it's important for the adults to have adult time.
Yeah. And if she's a stay-at-home mom, what a wonderful opportunity for him to spend this one-on-one time that's pre-designated. I love that, Shannon. That's a great.
Yeah.
Well,
we have this talk all the time in my world.
It starts to touch on this idea that if I work outside the home, or I work from home, but I work for another organization, right? I work and then I come home and I have childcare duties, but you didn't work, and therefore you should continue watching the child, forgetting that the work in the home, the work of raising children, the work of keeping the home is work. It's unpaid labor. And this is where a lot of couples really fail to kind of connect and create understanding between the two of them, especially, this situation aside, if you have a competitively employed person and a non-competitively employed person who is the homemaker, that's a very common area of where people get tripped up, which is, right, I have worked this long day and she then wants to, or he wants to take this time away and I have to watch the kids. Well, fuck yeah, because all of this is also a full-time job. And unfortunately, that looks like an 80-hour week or more, and yours is a 40-hour week. And now you are arguing that your 40-hour week gets to end and their 80-hour week doesn't, because it's a lesser type of work, right? And that's a really painful message for people to kind of navigate and heal from, where what my contribution is somehow lesser because I don't get a paycheck attached to it.
Absolutely, Gail. And that is a very real thing in our society. We don't get paid to be stay-at-home parents in our society. I've read numerous fiction book series where they do, and it would be real lovely if that was a thing.
It would be
amazing if that happened, but it doesn't exist right now in our society.
And of the two, one of the things I sometimes point out in working with folks in this paradigm, like the stay-at-home, like if you're the non-stay-at-home parent, you get breaks and lunch, and like you can go to the bathroom.
Yeah.
And if you go to the bathroom at the workplace, nobody is going to knock on the door and ask you for like a cup of coffee or a juice box, right?
Or
like
just barge in when you're in there.
Right. Exactly. And as a stay-at-home parent, like that shit's unrelenting.
Yeah.
I mean, there aren't, so the level of mental energy it takes to do that is so high compared to the person who's like, oh, I'm going to go take my break and take a walk around the building. And, oh, my meeting got canceled. Now I'm going to like do some choice time work and it's still work, but I get to pick this. And it's such a, like you don't like when you're home with a kid, like they're always like, oh, it's something new.
Yeah.
I then have, I was going to say, then I have a lot of clients who are stay-at-home parents who then say the at-work parent will come home and it feels like adding another child to the mix.
Right.
Because now they have to cook for another person that comes home.
Who, by the way, then wants to also touch you. And if you're raising little ones, you're touched all day and you're filled with like, I don't want to be touched anymore, but your spouse comes home and wants touch. And that is draining as well. That's not wrong, but these are things that you have to navigate when you organize your life in this way. And if kids are in the bathroom with you and literally constantly in contact, maybe you're nursing a little one, there's just a lot of touch, and that gets overwhelming. And so to be able to carve that time out, to have that spouse take those kids away for a little bit, allow yourself that recovery time so that you can create some intimacy time. It's fair.
Self-intimacy time.
Yeah. Self-intimacy,
self-connected time where it is just you to connect with your thoughts, your feelings.
Absolutely. And I was talking with someone recently of just like, yes, that is all important. And as a way to continue to invest in your relationship, investing in you allows you to then be available to invest back in your relationship. Because if you only invest in your kids, we're missing two other really important people in the mix, yourself and your partner. And that is where we start to see people pull away and fracture and really then feel invested in their own position and forgetting to look at the overall household, shared interest. Yes, Dan.
Yeah.
I've learned something from
the
you.
chuckler, we've talked in the past about this mediation concept of moving from positions to interest, to what are the underlying. So that's for those who haven't been listening all along, that's out of the mediation work.
And I like that a lot.
Yeah. And what's interesting here, getting back to OP's original question, like so often he asks the wrong question.
That's immediately what I was thinking.
The question is it reasonable for me to ask her to do this during the daytime? As such, yeah, it's very reasonable. But that wasn't the problem. The problem was the escalation that, getting back to it happened, the escalation that occurred. And the question is, what was his role in that escalation? What was her role in the escalation? All of that stuff got yada, yada, yada out. And we don't know what happened there. So like, we can't, I don't know that I can answer his question because the question isn't really it's not really the problem.
Well, if you
it's the thing that happened afterwards.
Am I the asshole for asking for her to do her homework during the day when the house is quiet versus in the evening? No. Is it problematic the way this situation went down? Maybe. Right? Did you have some poor choices and poor behaviors in there? Possibly.
Probably. So, were you the asshole for what you said after her response?
Right.
We don't know because he never wrote down. He like, and then we got into an argument.
Yeah.
Like that's important stuff there.
I would really want to know the context of that argument. I'd want to know the content of that argument.
All of which didn't get said.
We would be exploring a lot that led up to that, right? Because this is not the first time that this interaction is playing through between these two people. This is part of a pattern.
Good point.
So it sounds like all three of you, though, are leaning towards more asshole-like than not. Is that fair? Or...
Well, he left out the information necessary to determine. Like, I suspect, like, if I were like,
not enough information. That is an outcome in the AITA world.
Yeah,
not enough info here.
I think if we had more information, it would help us. Now, if I had to take a gander at this, I suspect that if there's some stuff here that happened that was out of line on his part. But we don't know. I don't know, at least, because he's left all that important stuff out. Shannon, do you have a thought that maybe Gayle or I missed?
No, and I want to be real careful here because
Mm,
again, I come from a background of working in the context of working with survivors of domestic violence. That's
Okay.
100% of my practice, right? So I see things in the context of power and control. That's the lens through
mm.
which I see almost everything.
Mhm.
And so I want to be real careful and not to put that into this. Um, and
But
so
this
as
pulls for that, Shannon, right?
and that's why I want to be careful not to over exude and put that into this, because I don't want to assume that we're jumping onto a power and control issue, but it would
Has
be easy
a feel.
to do it, right?
Mhm,
It has the
mhm,
feel. Yeah.
It
mhm,
has the feel of it. Um, and so that's why I said I'm trying to be careful here.
mhm.
Because
Uh,
It's
and I
fair.
appreciate it's there.
there.
Uh, and so that's why there's flavors of it, right? There's
Mhm.
flavors of the power and control piece here.
Yeah.
Um,
Well,
but
Michael, what did the internet? Oh, sorry, Shannon, I
yeah,
interrupted you.
no. I think that's fair. What did the internet come up with?
Well, the internet is not always as nuanced as you guys are, which is part of why it's
Fair.
such a
You
nice
might have doctoral
juxtaposition.
level
So,
trainings in psychology,
yeah,
so there might be
right.
that.
They very squarely came down on this guy was being an asshole. That he was controlling the power dynamic, exactly the things you started to
Mhm.
say, but like wanted to be careful not to because we don't have
Well,
all
they're
the
probably,
information.
Michael, they're
Yeah.
probably right. We're just more hesitant to like indict someone unless we have clear evidence.
Right.
But
So
okay, sorry.
if we take it squarely from the power and control wheel, so the domestic abuse intervention, I think is domestic abuse intervention program up in Duluth to put out the power and control wheel early 90s, I want to say. Michael, here's a good one to go fact check
Link in
me
the show
on.
notes.
It is um, uh, the most depicted use of coercive control, the power and control wheel. It's a Minnesota product here. The power and control wheel, it's been replicated numerous times. One of the wedges on the power and control wheel is using male privilege. And so using male privilege, one of that specific wedge is the wedge that's coming to mind here as we're talking about this particular case, right? Because that particular wedge would be I work, the male works, the woman stays at home, right? And so we have our traditional gender roles, right? And so man breadwinner, woman stays at home, woman takes care of kids. Man says, I determine that we are going to go have family time and you're going to do it that way, right? So we would fall within that wedge. And then we would also fall somewhat within the minimizing, denying, and blaming wedge of, well, it's not my fault, right? And
Yeah.
this is where I'm guessing the internet's jumping in as they're falling into the minimizing, denying, and blaming wedge.
Yeah, exactly. And it's funny, so many of them point out, like, you did this great job of saying, like, how much time you spent in therapy and all this stuff. And yet, like, why do you expect your wife's journey is going to be different and easier and that you should tell her how to do that? Did she dictate when you did your homework? Did she
Yep.
tell you? Like, exactly. I mean, so both of those wedges that you're talking about, that male wedge, and then also that I can't remember exactly what you said, but the other
Minimizing,
part that,
denying, and blaming wedge would have gotten called
yeah.
out, I'm sure, by the internet.
Yeah, so
Mhm.
those were definitely two things they really weighed in on.
So I do think it is important that, we mention that if you in any way suspect there is domestic violence happening in your relationship, to be aware that going to couples therapy can actually cause more harm. Couples therapy becomes a weapon that gets to be used against the survivor or against the person to whom the domestic violence is being perpetrated. So if you feel like the power dynamics aren't feeling okay, it's actually better to, at that point, be in individual therapy and to be ending couples therapy. So that's, I think, a really important piece that people need to be aware of.
Yeah. I'm really glad you brought that up.
There was a interesting, I always love like the side conversations in the comments. And so a bunch of them went into, I'm in therapy and really struggling with this, doing telehealth service because they work from home and their partner works from home as well. And like, where do you find that private space? And so one of them talked about going, to a coffee shop and just using their Wi-Fi and sitting in their car in the parking lot. And, and that's a very real thing that they, talked about as well. And so they were like, you can't impose upon your wife when and how she does her therapy.
Right.
She needs to feel comfortable, and whether it's homework or with her therapist that she's meeting with them, she needs to feel comfortable and that she has the brain power and the bandwidth to do that. And so like that was definitely something that they came down on a lot. But I'm kind of curious, like, what do you guys hear? Because you all three of you do telehealth, or Shannon, do you? Okay, I'm curious. Do you hear that kind of concern about location and finding
Oh
that
yeah,
private space?
all the
I
time.
would,
I meet with. Go ahead, Shannon.
yeah, 25% of my clients do therapy from cars.
Mm.
That's a very real, because again, I work exclusively with survivors of domestic violence. So most of my folks can't do therapy from home. It's just not possible. A number of my clients are still with abusive partners. They're in the process of getting out. And so being at home just isn't possible. So I have a lot of folks that are doing therapy from cars, whether it be in parks, whether it be workplaces, things of that nature. I have a lot of people doing it from conference rooms at work. I have a lot of people doing therapy. Uh, I don't let people do it from public places where they, like, if anybody can walk by, that is a rule that I hold. I also don't let people do it if they're driving. The last thing I ever want is for somebody to cause an accident. So if they're in a car, it has to be a parked car. That is a rule that I hold with my clients. But if you're going to be doing therapy with me, you have to be able to be in a private space where nobody can walk by, see your screen. That's really important. I do lead one of the only virtual groups for survivors of domestic violence in the state of Minnesota. So again, privacy is really, really important. Nobody can walk by, see your screen. They can't hear you, things of that nature. So that's really important for me. So
And
we do hold that telehealth.
and
Important.
even if she, like, we're making an assumption here about power and control, and it's a very reasonable assumption given his description. Like, we weren't ready to go as, because the internet's more willing to pass judgment than we are without full data. But even if there isn't that power and control, which seems unlikely, but okay, even if that isn't the issue, um, meeting your therapist from a private place is important. And I don't do the same work you do, Shannon. But I would say that about a quarter of my folks are in their car parked. I have the same rules you do. No public spaces where people can walk by. But most of my, but I do have folks who are like, let me go out to the car because I need more privacy, or I can't meet at this time because my partner's here. Let's schedule this when they're not at home, or when I can, be someplace else, or when I can drive over to wherever. Because I don't want my whatever, whoever listening in. Not that they're necessarily ever able to hear it, but because it gives me that peace of mind and comfort. And that is one. Like, I love telehealth, and that people can meet with us from anywhere and don't have to drive to an office, and it's so much more convenient for them. But this issue does come up a lot, and people do end up meeting with. I do a lot of that car therapy.
Yeah. Yeah.
In a
I mean,
parking lot outside of work, or at the work conference room, or things like that. So yeah, and for her to have that private time to do the work she needs to do outside of therapy, again, he needs to be giving her that time to do that work.
Yeah.
That's her job right now, right? I
It
mean,
is.
she has two jobs: stay-at-home mom and the recovery from mental health issues. So, like, if you're going to he needs to give her the time to do that job that is primary to their functioning as a family of healing.
I'll add, though, I tend to look at the internet askance at their advice sometimes. One of the things that was particularly heartwarming in this case was the number of people who reached out and said, here are tools for domestic abuse if this is the scenario, if you need any help. And we'll be sure to link those things as well, because I think anytime we talk about it, we need to make sure and share what those resources are available.
And I am
But it was
happy to provide resources on that front too. I have a whole big long list of them.
awesome. I'll definitely take you up on that.
I am a former advocate, so I come from the backgrounds of working in shelters.
Awesome. Well, thank you all three for another riveting debate and a glimpse into the collective conscience of the internet forums. Remember, morality is often shades of gray and not just black or white.
And if you are in need of those resources, please do visit our website. We will make sure that we get Dr. Goecke-Watson's resources put up and help in any way we can for the situation that you may be in and don't know where to turn.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Please follow and share Veritas Views on any of the podcast platforms with your neighbors and friends. And as always, stick around through the credits for the bonus conversation about, I don't know, we'll see.
You can follow Dr. Dan Kessler at Dr. Dan Kessler and Dr. Gayle MacBride at Dr. G. MacBride. Oh, and you can find them both at veritaspp.com. Credits. Tickling the Ivories, Matthew Reddington. Art, production, and design, bringing this show together with flair and finesse, Michelle Love. Recording and editing, turning chaos into something worth sharing, Michael MacBride. Intro, outro, I'm Kelly Buttrick, a VO talent who just happens to be Dr. MacBride's cousin. Cats, CJ, Linus, Sadie, and Griffin. Hosting by whomever lost the coin flip. Interruptions by all their children. The content of this podcast is for informational and educational purposes only and is not a substitute for professional mental health advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Listening to this podcast does not constitute a therapist-client relationship. If you believe you may be experiencing a mental health issue, please seek the assistance of a qualified mental health professional. If you are experiencing a mental health crisis, you can call or text 988 from anywhere in the U.S. to be connected to Crisis Mental Health Services.
Thanks for listening. As promised, here's that bonus conversation.
All right, Dan, do we subject her to the usual question?
All
Sure,
right.
go.
Bring it on.
All right. Well, so when we started the podcast, and you know, because you listened to some early episodes, we started talking about the things in our office. The things in our office are meaningful to us, right?
Okay.
And we've kind of taken a track, I guess, in talking to our guests about what's in their office. Now, we don't necessarily get a chance to, you know, peek around your office because we just get this narrow little camera view of it. But we'd love for you to tell us a story about something that is in your office that is meaningful that you'd like to share with us about why it's there and the story it tells or the use it has.
I would share with you, let's see.
She's looking around deciding.
The number one thing is my brain model that is right behind me.
Ah.
This brain model goes with me everywhere. It is used everywhere. Those that know me and know me well know that I am a massive brain nerd. I'm a believer that talking about the neurology of trauma is incredibly, incredibly important. So this model was actually gifted to me by my internship director. So for those that don't really know much about the internship process for the doctorate level of psychology, it's kind of like our residency for the medical world. It is pretty much our last step before we get to be doctors. So we go, essentially, we get matched somewhere in the country, and you have to go pretty much be a psychologist for 40 hours a week somewhere. There's a little bit of a training component, but we see folks, goodness, like 30-ish hours a week for clients. Although it kind of depends, I guess, on what your program is. Yeah, mine was we saw patients 30, and then we had some training and a little bit of supervision. So my last day of internship, my gift for my internship director was my brain model, because he knew that I love to talk neurology. And so this particular model, it comes apart. I get to use it. So quite literally, a big part of what I do as part of my practice is I do a lot of community trainings on trauma. And so this model comes apart, and I get to show different people, and I get to walk through the different parts of the brain with people, which is really, really cool. And so I do this with clients. I do it as part of trainings where I get to actually walk through and be like, this part does this part does this, and I get to do it in the context of trauma. And the light bulbs I get to see with people when they go, oh my God, that's why I do that, or that's why that happens. And it is just mind blowing for so many people. So recently I was in Washington, D.C. as part of this whole APA thing that Gayle mentioned at the start of today's episode. And I was sitting down with one of the congressional aides, and we were talking about and advocating for the field of psychology and why we need psychology and why they need to keep funding psychology and all of that. And I was telling a story about why I continue to do all of these trainings and all of that. And I told the story about why I do what I do with all of my brain models and all of that. And I explained some of the neurology. And she's like, oh my God, I get it now. She's like, we need to hire you. She's like, we need you to come into Congress and explain this. She's like, I am so grateful that you do this. And so it was just so cool to have clients and now even a congressional aide and all of these people be able to see and to be able to really understand the neurology of trauma. So that model for me is so friggin' important. It goes with me everywhere for all of my trainings, all of my clients, you name it. So that model for me warms my heart.
Cool.
It's unfortunately falling apart, and I keep trying to find a replacement because it is now, almost a decade old. But I haven't found a replacement. I've tried to find one on Amazon, but I'm loath to let it go at this point. So that's my favorite.
That's really cool.
Thing in my office.
It is more evidence that you are absolutely in the right position. And I am so grateful for the advocacy that you do for your clients, for victims of domestic violence and the field of psychology.
I am so grateful that you will let me get to be part of this today. This is so fun. Oh. I love it.
And seriously, that really very much thank you for everything you're doing. Not just for the clients you work with, Dr. Goecke-Watson, but for our field as psychologists, and I really appreciate the representation that you're taking to DC when you do that work, and insert more effusive things here that just get annoying. So I'll stop.
Well, both of you are doing a lot too, so thank you for everything you're doing. Goodness, Dan, with everything you're doing for MPA, Gayle, you as well. Like, from the bottom of my heart, I'm grateful to all of you too, and for everything you're doing with this podcast, all three of you, Michael as well. To the bottom of my heart, thank you. This is amazing. I'm so grateful to be a part of this.
Yeah, well, thanks again for joining us, and thanks everyone else for tuning in. Tune in again next week for, some other conversation about who knows what the topic will be.
We love hearing from you, so please review us on Apple, Spotify, or, wherever you're listening. If you enjoyed this podcast, please review, like, and follow. Also, give it a share. This helps us reach more listeners.